on in homes. It's going on with children. It's going on in the church. You say in the church. Yes, why would Southern Baptist of Texas say, hey, we've got 4 different ways to show you how to prevent abuse, and some of it has to do in the church? That's because, for one, there are wolves in sheep. There are people who are drawn to groups of loving, caring people with the intention of taking advantage of them. And we have to watch out for people like that. But the other thing is that there are people who are hurting in their own flesh. They're dealing with their own temptations and that sort of thing. And maybe they were molested as a child, and now they're attracted to that same kind of situation. And I've dealt with people like that before. Is God at work changing the lives of people who have gone through these kinds of horrific experiences? Yes. Yes. He doesn't, if we belong to Him, He doesn't give up on us. He may discipline us. He may correct us. He may use the consequences of circumstances that we've involved ourselves in to bring us to a point of change, but He doesn't give up on us. But for those who have not come to faith in Christ, to find the help that you need to be able to overcome this kind of a struggle, whether you find yourself as a person who is abusive or you are a person who's being abused, Jesus can intervene on your behalf and He can create new life in you. But it's up to you to respond. Psalms chapter 10, verse 17 is the verse that I want you to see. O Lord, you hear the desire of the afflicted. You will strengthen their heart. You will incline your ear to do justice to the fatherless and the oppressed, so that man who is of the earth may strike terror no more. There's going to come a time, brothers and sisters, there's going to come a time that there will be no one striking terror anymore.
Amen.
There will be no ISIS trying to infiltrate the United States to create problems in airports and to attack various people. There won't be Christians being lined up on a beach, having their heads chopped off or shot execution style. There will be a time when there won't be any more child abuse. There won't be any more sexual abuse. There will come an end to oppression. There won't be people taken against their will and shipped off to another country or another place to be involved in the sex trade. A time is coming. But until then, what are we going to do to stand for Jesus in this time? That's the call. That's the question. And today the request was a simple one. Will you pray for abused children? Will you pray for them? Will you pray that they find help? Will you pray that God will provide someone to intervene in their situation? Would you take this and put it up on the refrigerator as a reminder? Would you turn on the back of your sheet where it says, visit www.bluesunday.org for free prevention and relief ideas, and read some of these things. Listen to one of these statistics. Within 1 year of aging out of foster care, you get too old to stay, right? Within 1 year of aging out of foster care, 66% of these children will be homeless, in jail, or die. 66%. And so how would God have us intervene? Maybe we can find something at that website that we can personally do, even if we don't have any children directly related to our situation. But pray that God would show you, give you divine appointments and opportunities to intervene personally in this situation. You see, the Lord does hear the desire of the afflicted. And so how does God intervene on their behalf? Well, sometimes, providentially, He works to move help into place. But the help that He often moves into place are His own children. You and me. But if we're unwilling, we're too busy, we're not attentive to God's desire in this, then we will miss not what most of us would be thinking is a real complication in my life. We would miss the eternal blessing of seeing how God could use us to impact someone for life and eternity. And that really is a much healthier way to look at it. So, as you think about verse 18, to do justice to the fatherless and the oppressed, so that man who is on the earth may strike terror no more, is a process that we can start now. We can look for justice for the fatherless. We can stand up for the oppressed. Whether it's a child that is not even born yet, that is facing the ultimate oppression of having its life removed before it even comes into the world, whatever the situation is, we can take a stand for those who have no voice and look for the opportunity to serve Jesus by serving others. For the least of these that we help in His name, we help Him. I look forward to a day when the earth will face terror no more. When there'll be an end to that, when all things will be restored, made new. But in the meantime, how much pain around us and even within us could be alleviated by responding to God's work and desire in our life. If you're a person who's faced abuse, respond today to God's work to bring healing to you. As we look at this slide again on abuse takes many forms. If you have suffered emotional abuse and your spirit has been crushed and fear has been so built into your life that you struggle to live your life from day to day, and you've called out to God and you've prayed, you've asked for His help. Have you pursued biblical counsel? Have you sat down with someone who has the skills to be able to help you wade through all of the feelings and the emotions and the realities that come with that? If you're an abuser, have you turned to someone and asked for help to unravel how you got there and to be able to find God's help to overcome? If you're involved in physical abuse, should you stay there? The answer is no, but you don't know how to get out. You don't know how to change that situation. Would you look for help? Would you trust God that He can help you find a way out? Mental abuse. I was feeling really mentally abused this week. I was reading some material on global warming and then climate change and then all this sort of thing. And major universities are coming out with studies that are saying there's nothing to it. It's just the normal cycle. The world gets hotter and then things happen to cool it off. And it's running a cycle. And these are major university studies that are coming out, while at the same time we're being told by our government that major resources are going to have to be put toward this at a time when our economy is struggling already. And that's a big issue. But when you're a kid, and you're being told that people who maybe waste a little water are evil, and that if you don't believe certain things are true, you're a bad person, when it comes to ecology and that sort of thing, you're actually being pushed toward the idea that there is no God, maybe that your God, or maybe the earth is the only thing eternal, and so we have to take care of the earth as the most important thing. And they're not hearing about the real God. They don't know about Jesus, they're not receiving the truth that God is the creator of all the things that we see and know, and that He created them, and He loves them, and He has a purpose for their life, and they're a part of a major plan of the things that God is doing, and His love for them is shown not just in the work of the cross, although it's shown best there, but it's shown how God has provided in this world for their needs, and He cares for all people. So they're not hearing truth. We need to speak to some of those things. You were here for the Bible Prophecy Conference, and you saw some of the materials that Dr. Martin had. And some of those materials I already have heard have impacted families and individuals as it has been taken by members of our church and given to other people. And they begin to see that creation is not a random series of things, but it is a carefully detailed planned work of God. And suddenly they're not just a descendant of a one-cell microorganism from some slime somewhere. They were created by a God who knew them from before the time they were born and was personally involved in their existence. What a kind of mental abuse is it to give a child the impression that they're just a random happening thing that really has no purpose and not necessarily any future after this life. They've not been told truth. Spiritual abuse. My parents did everything they could to have me in church. And I heard truth. And I ran from God. I knew I needed to receive Jesus as my Lord and Savior from the time I was in the 4th grade. I knew. And I ran for 5 years. And they kept me there in church, hearing what I needed to hear, even when I resisted, even when I didn't act like I wanted to be there. The reality is that stone upon stone, fact upon fact, truth upon truth was being put in my mind. It looked like it was going in one ear and out the other, but it was in fact banging around into some stuff on its way through. And finally a day came as I sat on a back row, putting fingerprints in a songbook, trying to hang on just to get through that invitation. I can just get through this invitation and I'll get out of here and I won't feel this way anymore. And then it dawned on me. There's a different way to handle this. I could say yes. And He would come in and forgive me and save me and make me a child of God. And I would never have to deal with this again. The pastor talked about the reality in that message of the fact that he had survived being a prisoner of war in a German camp during World War II simply because of his faith and trust in Jesus. And as he saw people around him that were not Christians who were dying in hopelessness, he had hope because of Jesus. Do you have hope because of Jesus today? Amen. See, I had just the hope as that kid that I was going to be able to live my life the way I wanted. When you're a 4th grader, what does that mean? But the reality was I was missing out on life. What was life? Jesus says, I am the way, the truth, and the... And so the principalities and powers of darkness that are urging us in this lifetime to abuse each other and to hurt each other and to not do the things that need to be done to present truth and spiritual reality to each other, those same principalities and powers were holding me back from life, from Jesus. I would encourage you, don't let that happen to you today. Don't let that happen to your family. Don't let that happen to your grandchildren. Do everything you can to speak truth and blessing and help into the lives of your family and into the lives of children who have no family and no help. I'm sure right now I could ask the school teachers that are here to raise their hands, and I'm not, if you know practical orphans. What's a practical orphan? It's a child who has a parent or parents. They're living in the house together, but for all practical purposes, that child has zero supervision, zero care. They are living their life on their own within that house. They might as well be without parents. Practical orphans. As we have the opportunity to be a blessing to them, as they're facing a type of abuse that may be a spiritual abuse, we can intervene on their behalf to present Christ. They can respond, even as John chapter 1 tells us. In this passage, Jesus, he was in the world, and the world was made through him. Yes, Jesus made the world. And the world did not know him. He came to his own, and those who were his own did not receive him. The people of the nation of Israel that were receiving their own Messiah didn't receive him. But verse 12 is important. But as many as received him, to them he gave the right to become children of God, even to those who believe on his name. Today, if you have not responded to the gospel, the good news, that's what the gospel means, the good news that Jesus died on the cross and rose from the dead, and he did that to provide salvation for you. You can receive him today. You can pray, turn your thoughts toward God, and simply say, I know I need forgiveness. I need your help. I need for you to change me in ways that I cannot change myself. Jesus, come in and save me. Make me a child of God. I receive you. And it says, but as many received him, to them he gave the right to become children of God. God doesn't abuse his children, folks. God provides for his kids. In fact, to the point that even the crummy things